Hey guys, this is Sebastian bringing you a hand replayer review for RakebackDollars.com. This is a hand that I played today that I thought it was a pretty interesting hand, and it really made me think while I was playing and forced me to think and make a decision and make what I thought was going to be the optimal play where there was a much easier play and lower variance play as well, but sometimes that's not always the best play. So I purposely have cut off the villain's name who I'm playing against because, again, I don't want to expose anybody, but let's get into the review. Okay, so I opened 10-9 suited from middle position. This is a full ring game. A few players are, there's not a few players missing from the table. So again, I'm in essence here in middle position here. So 10-9 suited, I think that's a fairly standard open in these games. So typically I raise it to 3x. But I haven't figured out the bet slider on the new merge yet, so I just opened to 3/4 pot, which is close enough in this spot. So that's something I need to figure out. But everybody folds, but the player in the cutoff calls. Now this player's an 18-12. I only have 200 hands on him. I'm not too familiar with him. He's an 18-12, and he appears to be, a fairly standard full ring, taggy type player just from his stats that I quick observed. That's my quick read on him. So the board comes down pretty wet. This particular player has a 7% cold calling range from the cutoff. So I felt that, this board actually hits his range pretty hard. He's going to get a lot of pieces of this board, a pair and a draw and things like that. But with top pair and a gut shot myself, for me this is a mandatory bet here. And he calls, which I'm not surprised about. I think he's going to be, there's a lot of hands that he can be calling with here, including 9s, 8s, or well, obviously 8s he'll probably be raising, but 9s, 7s even, maybe a hand, maybe he has a similar hand like 10-9, maybe he has a hand like 6-7 or 8-7, maybe even pocket 5s, maybe a hand like Jack-10, so suited or something like that. So those are the hands that possibly even Ace-10 suited. So that's kind of the range that I'm putting them on here. So the queen comes, and obviously it's a club. It's not really a great card for my hand, but now at this point I have a double gut shot still, and I still have what was top pair, so I think check calling is fine here. I think check folding's a little weak. If our jack comes in or we hit our 7, not that our hand's super disguised, but I think we have a lot of outs, and he might not necessarily put us on a 9 here. Now given there are flushes here, so we're not going to be going crazy. But I think check calling here is fine. And also my thought with this particular opponent was, he's an 18-12. I can check call one street, and a lot of the time he's not going to be barreling the river there. So if I check call, a lot of the time on the river it's going to go check check. He's going to give up because he's not going to want to put in a lot more money. So we can reevaluate from there. So I check. He bets 11. He makes the bet super easy to call as well. So I go ahead and call, and then the ace comes on the river. So my initial reaction is like, okay, great, my hand is crap now. I have no club, and again, I'm just going to check. Hopefully this guy doesn't have a club, and he checks back, and maybe by some miracle chance I have the best hand. So I check, and he bets 23, just over half pot here. So, I was just getting ready to fold. And again, I think folding is fine in this spot, especially if you don't want to put yourself in difficult spots. And again, for the micro stakes guys, I definitely, I'd be folding here, and I wouldn't be, trying anything fancy here. But for me, I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm just going to fold. And then I thought, wait a minute. Okay, well, what can this guy really have here? He's calling 7% of his hands in position. So again, he's got a lot of pocket pairs, anywhere from 6 to, up to queens here, and he's got, suited hands. So unless he has the nuts here, like king jack suited or something like that, there's not really many nutted hands that he can have here, and he's really not calling with any offsuit kings or jacks here. So when he bets here, I think if he had the nuts, again, unless he had the board crushed here and he was just trying to get a little bit of value and trying to get hero called, I think that his bet's not very strong here. So I decided, okay, well, what are the merits of raising here and making it about like 56 or so? What are the likelihood that's going to work? So first, is it likely that he has it? And as I just thought about, I was like, it's not really likely that he has it because there's not many kings or offsuit, king of clubs or jack of clubs in his range here that he's going to be calling with. Again, he's going to be calling with mostly pairs and suited connectors, and I would expect. And this particular player isn't even three betting light with certain hands, so again, I don't expect him to have an offsuit king or jack in his hand here. Plus, he's a tight player too, so this doesn't appear to be the type of player who's likely to make a hero call. So that's the first, my first criteria is set in the fact that I don't think it's likely that he has it, and the fact that he's tight. So this is a good spot possibly to pull a bluff. Now, the second question I have to ask myself, is my story going to be believable? So, if I check raise here, is my story believable? Okay, now, can I represent a king here? And if I think about it here, okay, I raise from there. Maybe I've got a hand like, again, maybe I'm raising king queen offsuit from middle position from there. That's likely. Or even a hand like, that would be a likely hand that I could be raising, or even ace king off with the king of the king of clubs or something like that. So okay, so if we replay the hand back again, if we actually start the hand from the beginning, and if we start going through it again here, now we're at the flop. Okay, is it likely that I'm c betting ace king here or king queen here, or a lot of hands? I could be c betting virtually, a large portion of my range here. Even a hand like pocket kings I could be c-betting here. So there's a lot of hands that I have here that I could be c-betting with that, the king of clubs is in. Okay, so the turn brings a queen, and I check because it brings the third flush here, and he bets. Okay, now is check calling consistent with a hand like king queen or pocket kings with a club? I think it is. I think it is very consistent with those hands. Checking to pot control, check calling, and then possibly if I hit, the flush on the river with a nutted hand, go from there. So that, again, I think I can very likely represent a hand like king queen or pocket kings here, or ace king with the king of clubs here. Okay, so the ace falls on the river now. So I check and he bets, and again I raise here to 56 here. I think this is telling a very credible story. That, coupled with the fact that I don't think it's very likely that this particular player has a king or a jack in his range here, or the type of guy to make a hero call even with a jack, I think this is a high likelihood of working because he's tight, and he ends up insta-folding. Now, the reason I replayed this hand wasn't to be like, oh, sick bluff, or anything like that. It was just to go to show where if you really take a look at a hand and examine it, that sometimes your first instinct or the first thing that comes to your mind isn't always the right play. And don't be afraid to try new things, again, if it makes sense. I'm not advocating just, making spewy raises or just making plays that don't make sense. But if you can have a logical reason why you made a play or why you did something, and you can put it together and look back, and then, look back and see, okay, well, did this play make sense, whether it worked or not? Even if this, if this guy had called with like a 9 or an 8 or something like that of clubs, or well, not the, the 9 of clubs, something like that. Again, not very likely he has any of those offsuit clubs in his hand, or he made some hero call or something like that. Well, okay, I got caught or whatnot. One, that's not particularly bad for my image, and two, I had a reason why I made a play, and I thought it was likely to work. And, as long as you have a reason and a game plan, I don't think you should be ever ashamed or embarrassed to make or try a new play. Alright, I want to take a look at two more aspects of this hand, and then we're going to wrap up the video. The first being range, and the second being bet sizing. First, when I talked about that this particular player has a 7% cold calling range in position, for the stats I had, one, I have very little information on this opponent, so that's just an estimation, but from the type of player that he is, I can pretty much, peg him on a certain range of hands that I'll think he have, and I think 7% is going to be pretty close to what his cold calling range frequency really is. Give or take, it may be 9%, maybe it's really 5%, so it's going to be a little bit tighter or a little bit looser than probably what I have it in such a small hand sample, but probably fairly close to what it should be. So what is exactly a 7% cold calling range for this particular opponent, or what do I think it is for him, or what did I think it was for him? And then we'll see how it compares to the board and what possible hands he can have, like we talked about. So, okay, so this particular player, oops, I lost my, it just, there we go, here we go, it's back. Sorry about that. Okay, this particular player, we said it is called calling 7% of hands in position. Now, if we look at those 7% of hands that he's going to be calling with, it's going to be, you know, aces, kings, and ace king. Most likely he's going to be 3-betting those hands for value. So maybe ace queen off, ace jack off, ace queen suited through ace 10 suited, the suited broadways, and pocket pairs, sixes through queens. He might be 3-betting queens, he might be flatting them. We don't really know, so that hand could go either way. And I think he's calling probably with a lot of suited connectors all the way down to 7-6, approximately. So this gives him about a 9% range. But because we don't know the exact hands that he's cold calling with, I'm going to add in a few more so that way we cover the full range and the full basis of the possible hands that he could call. And he could be even calling, different hands than this as well, but I think these are the most likely. So of these hands that he's calling with, what hands does he really have us beat with? So, okay, so if we look, we could start eliminating hands here. Well, ace queen suited, that means he doesn't have a club. Same thing with ace jack or ace 10 because those are all on board. King queen suited, we know he doesn't have that because there's a queen on board. King jack suited, that's the uber nut, so that's a possibility. King 10 suited, we know he doesn't have. It's possible that he has queens without the club, as in in that spot. But let's first let's say this. It's possible he had queens on the turn, bet, hoping that if he was behind he could fill up or whatever it was. But on the river he can't call a bet with queens. So again, he can't call a bet there with queens here. Queen jack suited, he can't have that. Queen 10 suited, he can't have that and call. Pocket jacks, he could have pocket jacks here, and if he has the jack of clubs, he could make a hero call here. Jack 10 suited, he can't have. Pocket 10s he could have here, but he can't call there. 10-9 suited he can't have here. 9-8 suited he can't have here. He could have 6-7 suited here. So that's another possible. He could have 6-7 of, if we go here, just 6-7 of clubs. So if we go back to here, King Jack, we're going to do King Jack, and we're going to do it just of clubs here. So he can't call here with sixes. He can't call here with sevens. Even if he has a club here, he really can't call here with sevens. Pocket eights can't call here on the river for a raise. Pocket nines. Now, if he has the 9 of clubs, he could possibly make a hero call. So what we'll include, we're going to go to the pocket nines here. We'll include, why am I not highlighting it here? We'll include one of the hands with nines where he could make a hero call, which is possible. So we'll put that in here. Again, same thing with the jacks here. We'll put in, if he has pocket jacks here, which I don't think is that likely because I don't think he bets the turn there with pocket jacks. I think he checks back, especially with the club. But we'll give him 2 clubs here just if he has pocket jacks. Ace queen offsuit, he can't have any of the clubs with that. And he can have ace here, he can't have any of these aces. But he could have any of these clubs here, so we'll give him those hands that he can have here. So of all the possible hands that he could have 7-6 for the flush. He could have king jack for the nut flush. He could have jacks with a jack in his hand and make a hero call, and same thing with nines. Jacks isn't so much a hero call, but I think with nines it is. And he could have ace jack here similarly with the club offsuit and make a call here. So if we look at the possible hands that he could have here that he can call with, it's only 0.6% of his range by my estimation. So again, that's such a minor part of his range here that he can call with. Again, I think that that's why this bet is going to be so successful, taking a look at it from a visual standpoint, and hopefully that helps you guys better understand visually the ranges and the exact hands that he can have and why he can have so few hands. And don't get me wrong, could he show up with a random, king jack off with a club? Sure, he could. Anything is possible. It's poker. But, you have to play what the most likely has and play the hand with the best information that you have that you think they're going to most likely play it. And I think that this was the case. And the second thing we're going to take a look at now is just as far as the bet sizing. Now, when I raise it to 56, that's just about 1.5 times his bet. And I think that one, it really makes it look like a value bet. Two, that if he does, it puts maximum pressure on him there. And if he does jam over the top of us, it makes it a really easy fold for us to get away from our hand. So I also think that 56 there has the same pushing power as a jam here. Sometimes I think it's better to put the whole stack in if you really want to get maximum fold equity. But I think in this particular spot, because one, it's very unlikely that he has a nutted hand, and two, if he does have a nutted hand that he was going to call, or that he's going to call with, he's probably going to get it all in with, or maybe he'll even just call with the hand here. So, maybe he'll call with a jack or hero call with a 9. But if he's going to do it for that amount, he'd probably do it for all in as well, too. So I think, again, making it 56, one, makes it look scarier, has the same pushing power as a jam, and it looks more like it's for value. And three, again, if he jams over the top of us, now we can fold and it saves us 33 big blinds. Because if he jams over the top of us, he's never, ever, ever doing it with worse. So, again, it makes it a very easy fold and it saves us 33 big blinds. But again, I think has the same effect. So, okay, we're going to wrap it up there. But I look forward to hearing your comments. And again, the more comments and likes we get on whether you're seeing it on Facebook, whether you're seeing us on YouTube or on RakebackDollars, the more content that we can bring you. The next video I'm going to bring is probably going to be a tournament win on Minted in celebration of my World Series of Poker cash, but I'm also thinking about doing a mental game warm-up video too, but there's something in the works with that, but I want to confirm all the details. We're having a few exciting promotions coming up here at RakebackDollars that we'll be unveiling in the next few weeks or so once the World Series of Poker wraps up and whatnot. So this is Sebastian signing off for RakebackDollars.com.